before show 11, here is the latest update on the coronavirus. This recording was done 72 hours after the main show. Well, mate, they say 24 hours in politics is a long time, but 3 days with the coronavirus seems even longer, mate.
It does, yeah. It's a lot's changed since we did our recording on Sunday, that's for certain. With obviously the most definitive news coming today from Bowls England, from our point of view.
Yeah, I think that was the news that we were all dreading, really, but probably fully expecting.
I was going to say, I don't think it's a shock to anybody, really, is it? It's we sort of expected this. My biggest shock, to be honest with you, is seeing some of the comments on the post where people are saying they feel that the decision's been made hastily and they think it's a little bit too soon. And I just shake my head and I just sometimes think, I wish you'd just take your head out of your Bowls hat for 2 seconds and just have a look what's happening around the world. And, you know, a Bowls season, yes, it's going to be, you know, it's not going to be great for us. It's going to be a tough few months. But, crikey, you look around the world, man, there's things happening left, right and centre. And there's people thinking that a Bowls decision not to play some Bowls competitions is too early and it's wrong and it's the wrong decision. And I question what they're watching when they're seeing these reports and they're seeing what's happening in other countries. And I know there's going to be a lot of clubs out there who will be potentially worried about the future. But obviously from
common sense had to prevail, mate, didn't it?
Of course it did. Yeah, of course it did. I mean. It would be all very good to turn around and say, well, let's just hang on and hang on and hang on. But like I said during the podcast, Walt Disney doesn't make those decisions based on hanging on and losing millions of pounds a day. No. So when major corporations and major companies and countries are stopping people from flying in and putting a lock on anybody within the country, 60 million people, it's like, is Bowls competitions?
That's right,
top of the tree.
We've got bigger things to worry about at the minute, haven't we, really?
And like I say, hopefully going forward, I'm sure Bowls England, and I know certainly from the Bowls Development Alliance, we will be obviously making people aware of what is available with regards to help. I'm sure Sport England will potentially be looking at some relief grants of some form. I know they did it for the floods. Yeah. So it's a case of watch this space on this one and see what happens. But personally, I think it's the right decision in the circumstances. And if it disappears in 2 or 3 months, which I can't see it happening, but if it does enable us to get back out on the greens, I'm sure there'll be a lot of clubs who can put things in place internally. And you know, there's a bit of free time there where clubs can use their imagination and maybe generate some funds doing some open competitions on a weekly basis.
Without a doubt, mate. Yeah. We'll just confirm that Bowls Australia and the World Bowls have also cancelled the World Outdoor Championships, which we fully expected.
Yeah. Another massive decision, which again backs up what we're talking about within our own country. There's 2 major world competitions gone.
Yep.
So yeah, that's gone, and obviously South Shields have taken that step forward from when Ian was discussing before. They've now gone from allowing casuals to a complete closure, which again I think is the right decision in the circumstances.
I don't know whether you've seen you might not have caught it yet, the latest statement from the AIBA, the update, and they are strongly advising that you suspend bowling and review on a regular basis for any clubs that have yet to make a decision. And I find that unbelievable, mate, that clubs are still yet to make a decision indoors.
I completely agree. Now, I'm sure I saw earlier on that there was a club still playing league games up until tonight, which is astonishing.
Yeah, complete loss when I read that. But
I've no doubt that at the end of the day we've all got different opinions on these things. But I just would have thought when we're seeing, you know, clubs made that initial step when we didn't have the full guidelines. And obviously we did that on Sunday, and by Monday they turned around and said that all social gatherings and, you know, this social space, etc., that you need, and no, you know, avoiding pubs. I mean, within the space of 24 hours that changed. So we obviously as a club made the step from allowing people to come in, but then quickly, because of those guidelines, turned around and says, well, no, you know, we've got to follow these guidelines because ultimately multiple reasons for this, 2 of which the main ones are to keep everybody safe and protect anybody who's got underlying conditions or over 70, which it's mostly affect, and the second one being the NHS, because as we know, the NHS is stressed to start with. Yeah. So the whole, you know, from what I've read into this, the whole thing that they're doing to try and protect the country is to ensure that there is as little, or as, I don't think it's going to be little, but as least stress on the NHS as possible. Family and health are the ultimate priority on this, and that's the way it's got to be.
Exactly.
And Bowls will look after itself, and we will, we'll get back to Bowls at some point in the near future, I've no doubt.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the building process again if that's what it needs.
Yeah, mate, I agree. It's a big blow for the sport, but we'll bounce back. And now here is podcast number 11, Loose Men. We hope you enjoy. Hi, I'm Richie Mackay.
And I'm Davey Bold, and you are listening to the Wrong Bias podcast. On today's show, there's a little bit of a difference for this show. We were going to do a bit of a chat on development through my role and the Bowls Development Alliance, but because of current circumstances, the virus that's affecting us all, we decided just to have a general chat on this show. We did manage to collar Ian Richards, the manager of South Shields Bowls, to come in and join us though, as he was still in the club, and he would just give us a few updates. Richie will be doing his roundup as per usual, and we'll have our competition sponsored by Alex Marshall Sports, and at the end we'll just be having a little bit of a roundup on any emails and any other topics.
Right, mate, here we are again. A very different show, this, show number 11.
Yep.
All plans of mice and men changed due to circumstances.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a rough week, I think, with obviously this coronavirus that's been around. We were, just to give you an understanding, we were going to do a development show this week. We were going to have George Babalev on, who's the development manager at the BDA, Bowls Development Alliance. But I did give him a call earlier on. We just think that it's potentially not the right time to do that type of a podcast or have that type of discussion, because we just don't know what is going to happen with regards to this virus, and what the ongoing situation is going to be with the state of the sport. So I think it's best left maybe till the next show when we have a fuller understanding.
The governing bodies obviously have acted straight away. The AIBA has been very quick off the mark and cancelled a lot of the future events, national championships, the Egham Trophy and the top club, and the seniors. Obviously the seniors had to go. They say it's unlikely to be before autumn 2020. Do you think they'll get them played now, mate, or do you think?
Well, again, I think it's going to. A lot of it's going to depend on what the situation is with outdoors as well, because could potentially be room to manoeuvre. I think the main thing is we've just got to look at when your governing body's making a huge decision to cancel your national finals, which is the pinnacle of the season, and you look around the world at what's happening. The Premier League's gone, Football League's gone, what Disney World is closed down. This is no minor flu that we're dealing with here. This is quite serious, and I think we've got a tough few months ahead of us, but hopefully we come through it on the right side and crack on. But just to give everybody an update as well, we've actually brought Ian Richards in again, who's the manager of South Shields. You may remember him if you've listened to the first ever podcast that we did. But
our most popular podcast, by the way.
It is actually, yeah.
And he's drinking lager as well, mate. What's going on there?
Power's gone to his head.
He's in the pub.
I need it when I'm trying to use to, I tell you.
Didn't think about bringing us one though, did he?
No, he didn't, mate. No. The shandy's here.
We're just pawns in his
right,
celebrity lifestyle.
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yes.
But we've brought Ian in because there's been a management meeting at the club this afternoon. Everything that's been going on, there's been a few decisions made on behalf of the club. So we'll just pass over to Ian on this one and just give us an understanding, Ian, as to what the club's decided to do based on the limited information that we've got so far.
We decided to have a meeting primarily because of the AIBA decision to cancel the national finals, because as you said, that is a major decision to make, and I think we've got a duty of care to our members in the club. The majority of members, I would say, are around about 70. The government are looking at to try and keep people safe, and that's probably the age group I think that they're looking at. So we had to make a decision. We had a couple of team captains come in and cancel the rest of the games for the rest of the season because they've got people at home who suffer from illnesses, or they've got asthma, or various reasons. So what we thought was to take the decision out of everybody's hands. So what we've done is we've decided to cancel the leagues as of Monday the 16th of March. Basically, the club will be open during the day for casual bowling, because there's nothing to stop anybody. The government haven't said you can't go to a bowl centre and play bowls. So people don't think they've got to turn up for league games, taking that out of their hands. If people choose to come in and play, then obviously that is their decision. If the government make a decision this week to change anything, then we'll respond to that straight away.
I think that's the general feeling of most, you look across social media and people are questioning, our club's going to close, etc. But until you get that definitive answer, I don't think there is a reason to. Personally, myself, I was, as of today, probably was going to be the last ball I've played for the indoor season. I've got my dad's unwell at home, and we cannot avoid it. There's nothing we can do to avoid it, I don't think, and I genuinely think the majority of people will actually get it. It's spreading that quickly. I just don't think you can avoid it. It's like getting a cold at winter time, in my opinion. Yeah. But what you can do is obviously limit your exposure to it, which is why I think, obviously, I think it's a great decision that you've done that. People haven't got that added pressure of thinking, am I going to be fined for not playing a league game or whatever it is. It just nips it in the bud, and it gives people the option rather than feeling as if the pressure to do something. But I certainly wasn't going to be playing again this season, I don't think. I think I've just got to make that, rational decision.
And the conversations that you've probably been having, Ian, is probably going to be replicated around the country, I would have thought.
I would have thought so.
I've talked about this previously. You cannot ignore your governing bodies. If your governing bodies are making major decisions like that, there is a reason it's being made. Clubs have got to think of the well-being, and in some ways we've just, you've got to take we all love the sport and we love our competitions, but is it really worth it for the next 6 weeks of the season to put others at risk? I don't think so, personally.
I think we could have made the decision just to close completely, but the fact that the government haven't said that anyway, sports organisations would have to do that, then that's why we came up with this compromise, if you like.
Yeah. And I'll hold my hands up, that was my opinion at first, but when I was driving through, you forget about all the logistics around it. There's people who are employed in the club, and there's people who rely on maybe coming to the club to get out of the house and things like that. So, the ball's in their court. If people are blind to what is currently out there at the minute, then that's their choice.
Yeah. And it's also worth mentioning that the World Indoor Bowls Championships in Bristol in April has been knocked on the head as well, which is a good decision. There must be a question mark over the actual Outdoor World Bowls Championships in Australia, mate.
You would think so, because it's certainly from the UK point of view, it seems to hit smack bang in the middle of what they're classing is going to be the peak.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time in between. You never know whether they're going to come up with an antidote or whatever it is to obviously combat it.
And Bowls England have yet make a stance. But the national championships under threat. Maybe it's August. Would August be a bit later? Or
I suppose they kind of jump in with 2 feet and make decisions early on when we don't know what the extent of this is going to be. I still think there's so much, and one thing that's really doing me head in at the minute is plastered all over Facebook and Twitter. There's everybody coming up with, this is the reason, that's the reason, this is what you should do, that's what you shouldn't do. For me, I haven't really seen anything that has been government legislation to turn around and say, this is exactly what you should do. And if I have, I've missed it. This is the downside of social media, unfortunately, which is why I don't particularly like social media for this. Everything that you're seeing is to do with it, and you're just getting so many mixed messages. So
just regular wash your hands and alcohol sanitizer.
That seems to be the general,
like that. And if you're coughing tissue, get it in the bin as quick as you can.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just have to make sure you take note what the government advice is as well, and we will absolutely be doing that. So as soon as any decisions are made by the government, we'll put them into place in here.
Yeah, I don't think I've watched the news as much ever, to be honest, as than I have the last few days. To be so sceptical about it at first and said, it's just, there's 2,000 people more a day dying from flu, etc. And I just thought it was all being a bit of scaremongering and over the top. But the more I'm looking into it and more I'm seeing what's happening, I think it's a lot worse than that.
And I'll just like to clear one thing up, that I wasn't at the front of the queue for the toilet rolls after our last podcast. I am now firm.
Yeah,
if you were eating, I apologise, but I am now firm.
The old Mackay 10 bob bits is cleared up.
All done and dusted. How's the old kidney stone, mate? An update on that?
I had great news on that, yeah. They decided to move 25 centimetres down into my pelvic region, so they couldn't actually get to it to shatter it. So I may have to go in for surgery on that one. So I'm really looking forward to that as well.
I'm sure Ian, if he does pass it naturally, we will hear about it.
Oh, absolutely.
I think there will,
absolutely no doubt about
there'll be a wild banshee cry coming out from the Silksworth area. Now it's time for Richie's Roundup, and there's that much. We're in 2 parts. Here's the first part. Cue the music. Our favourite Welsh club, Llanelli, hosted the men's and women's Home International Series and British Isles Championships. In the women's series, England were going for a 3rd consecutive title defence, while Scotland were hoping to secure a 4th series win at Llanelli. In the end, it was England who secured the title. An opening 58-shot win over host Wales was followed by a 52-shot win over Ireland. And then in the old enemy clash against Scotland, England ran out and secured a title with a 35-shot win. Wales finished second after wins over Scotland and Ireland. Scotland finished third, while Ireland finished bottom. In the British Isles, Scotland took the singles for the fourth consecutive year when Julie Forrest defeated the Channel Isles' Alison Murrian 21-13. In the pairs, England's Katie and Lucy Smith took the honours with a 23-16 win over Ireland's Bridget Leckie and Sandra Bailey. The triples went to Wales as Kerry and Kelly Packwood and Mary Claire McCulloch defeated Scotland's Sheila Bremner, Kim Watt and Catherine McIntosh 21-13. In the fours, the Channel Isles took their title with Alison Murrian skipping the quarter to a 22-13 win over Scotland's Catherine McIntosh. England retained the junior singles title for the fifth year running as Nicole Rogers defeated Scotland's Dawn Anderson 21-16. In the men's home international series, England retained their title for a sixth year in a row. An opening 53-shot win over host country Wales was followed by a 31-shot win over Ireland. As usual, the title was decided in the old enemy clash against Scotland, with England hanging on for a 12-shot win. Scotland finished runners-up. Ireland beat Wales in their last game to finish third, and that left the hosts without a point with the wooden spoon. Only two countries have managed to win the home international series 6 years in a row. That was England in the late 50s and Scotland in the early 90s. So next year, England will be looking to become the first country to win it 7 times in a row. In the men's British Isles Championships, England retained the singles and the pairs. In the singles, Andrew Walters beat Scotland's Colin Milne 21-15, while in the pairs, Michael Knight and Robert Newman beat Wales' Steve Harris 2018. In the triples, there was some success for Scotland as Alistair Elliott, Rhys Nortman, John Orr beat England's Ben Pawley 22-8. In the fours, Ireland notched the title as Mark McPeak, some fella called David Corkill, Robert Kirkwood and Stuart Bennett beat England's Sam Tolshard 20-12. There was more success for Ireland in the junior singles, as they took the title for the first time in 16 years. Well done to Sam Barkley, as he beat England's Ryan Atkins 21-19. And there was more good news for Ireland, as they had a first ever success in the senior fours, as Robert Malkinson, Tony Bell, David Hamilton and Raymond Barr beat England's Marcus Smith 22-13. Based on the British Isles results, England won the Gedlin Trophy. There's been more action in the open singles circuit. The Five Rivers event saw Westallcott's Neil Smith beat Torquay United's Danny Dennison in straight sets. The Falcon event saw Norfolk's Wayne Wilcris beat the number 1 ranked Herger's Pat Briscoe in straight sets, while it was the first title of the season for White Knight's Paul Maynard, as he defeated Westallcott's Mike Titcombe on a tiebreaker to land the North Wilts title. Remember, only the top 32 qualify for the grand finals at Potters. The only woman in the top 32 is Westallcott's Lucy Smith, who's currently ranked 23. After those 3 events, Pat Briscoe is now ranked number 1, Neil Smith goes up to number 8, Wayne Wilcris goes to 13, Paul Maynard goes to 19, and Danny Dennison is at 21. There were 9 events left, but sadly these have all had to be cancelled. There will be more news later in the show. Right, mate, I thought it would be interesting just to tackle the subject of the use of media within the sport and whether clubs, bowlers have a responsibility to actually fully use the media, as in getting reports into the press, websites, Facebook. I think the frustrating part on me, I write for the Sunderland Echo, I've done for 17 years. You go online to try to catch some snippets and there's very little getting put out there from other areas and what have you. So do you think we're really using social media?
It's certainly getting better. There's a lot more clubs are using it now. For me, I just kind of understand why any club, and I know there's the older generation are a little bit wary of using Facebook. There must be somebody within your club who's got a grandson or whatever who can help you with the social media side of things. But in my opinion, every single club who is affiliated to the national governing body should all have a Facebook page.
Yep.
Not only just to promote what's happening within their own club, clubs, but to promote the club as a whole and let people know that they're there, let them know what goes on, let them know what facilities is there, and just promote the club as much as they possibly can, because as we've talked about, and Ian will probably back this up, it's like you can put stuff out all of the time, but we get a lot of functions coming to the club, and I hear it so many times. People walk in the club and go, "Craig, I didn't even know this was here." So if the general person on the street doesn't know that a club is here, the size of this place, then who is? And we question why we're not getting enough numbers into the sport.
I mean, it's got to be a sin that a county hasn't got a website.
Definitely. Is there many?
I don't think Cumbria got one.
Maybe not. No,
I've seen Cumbria. They've got
a social media page.
They've got the Facebook page, but they haven't got a website. And there's a lot of the county websites that are never up to date. There's some of them you go on 2018, and I'm going, well, what's the point in having it? If they've lost interest doing it, get somebody else to do it.
Mm-hmm. I think you've got to do it. We had a website here before I took over, and nobody even knew about it, and it was there.
Yeah.
We built a new website, and to be honest, I'm quite surprised how much it gets used. Because and the only reason I know that is because we had a problem with the leagues, and you can see the leagues on there. Mm-hmm. And what I did was, because there was a problem with the leagues, we couldn't fix it because the supplier who does the league softwares was Horizon. It's now being taken over by Bolar, and there's lots of things going on with that. But basically, it wasn't working, and I couldn't contact anybody to fix it. So I closed the leagues off on the website, and I had so many people ringing us, messaging us, saying the website's not working. That's the only reason that I know that people do use the website. Yeah. But the Facebook page, I think, is quite popular now. A Facebook page.
It is very popular. I mean, we've got the internal one, and we've now got the public page as well. So we try to put a few stories on there. But it's like this scenario we're in now. How many people are going to have to potentially pick the phone up or get word of mouth or whatever, where if you had that, you can just put, this is the situation, this is the regulations we're dealing with, this is what the club has decided to do. That's it. People look at it, see it. You'll probably get people turning up at the leagues who probably haven't...
Well, I mean, I can put notices up in the club to say this is what we're doing. If you could just go on Facebook and look at Facebook and say, oh, look, the leagues are cancelled tomorrow. Now, a lot of people will do that, but a lot of people haven't even got Facebook. So
more people will look at digital sort of signage than they will. And I've said it for years, you could literally walk into a club, there could be two girls standing with bikinis with pom-poms jumping up and down the table pointing towards the notice board, and people would still walk straight past it and not even look at it.
Absolutely.
Notice boards are just, they're great for some people, but majority they just walk straight past, don't even acknowledge it. And then it's amazing, 3-4 days later something's happened and they come over and say, why didn't you let us know? So,
and the number of times that you hear people say, well, didn't know that was on. It's in the paper, people didn't read it. It's on the website, people didn't read it. There's only so much you can put on Facebook, people didn't read it. I know a lot of people don't go on, but the information's there and people do get it out there. There's a lot of information that doesn't get out there, and it's so frustrating.
It is when you've got clubs that are twisting and moaning that they can't get this, that or the other, and then you go to look for them. And one thing we always talk about when we go to clubs through my role is they're not on Google Maps. People use Google Maps now like TripAdvisor, so they'll have a look onto there to see A, where they are, B, if there's any reviews on there. Yeah. So you should be using that type of thing to make yourself known to people, and secondly to have people put on reviews there to say that you're a welcoming club, you're a great club, we've got a bar, you can have functions there, you can come and play, you get your first 3 sessions free, and it's same with the websites. The front page of a website should be nothing at all to do with this is what the club has done, this is what we've won, these are our trophies, look at us, we're great. Should have nothing to do with that. That is your window to promote the club to somebody, so it should have come to the club, free sessions, coaches, blah blah blah, all the information that you want on there. New bowlers who know nothing about bowls will look at and say, oh well, I might have a pop down and have a try.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Right, folks, as we don't have a special guest to do our 7-Up, I thought it would be a time to catch Mr. Bolt. So, David, here are your 7-Up questions. Right, number 1, your favourite green indoors and outdoor?
Indoors and outdoors. Indoors, I've got to go back and agree with Mr. Brett off the last podcast. I would say Stanley Indoor prior to the blue green,
carpet,
was the best surface you will ever find indoors.
Yeah.
Outdoors.
North Biddick.
Weymouth.
In the miners' days.
Oh, you've really... to be honest with you, I've got to say that Houghton Dairy Lane has made massive strides last season, and it was an absolute pleasure to play on that green last season.
Which sportsman would you like to meet?
Sportsman I'd like to meet would have to be, I think, Roger Federer.
Roger Federer. Aye. Curly Whirly or Figure of Fudge?
Oh, Curly Whirly.
Okay, controversial. Figure of Fudge. Gives us heartburn. Toughest opponent?
Toughest opponent? Probably Plump or Mr. Torchard, Samuel.
Yeah. Kim Wilde or Debbie Harry?
Kim Wilde.
You do realise you're going to get a slap when you get in off Leanne just for answering that question.
I'll just say I didn't know who either of them were.
We're the kids in America. Worst moment in your career?
Richie, right.
You haven't had many, but there must be some.
I've had plenty. Don't you worry about that. Worst moment in my career, losing the Denny final last year would be right up there, because it wasn't so much being part of the team but actually managing the team, so it would have just, it's something we've strived for 30 odd years, and to be so close, just to have done it for the lads as much as myself, to be honest with you. So yeah, I would say Denny final.
Right. It wasn't getting beat off me in the singles. Right, and finally, if you've got any future ambitions, mate.
Future ambitions, I'm going through a little bit of a quiet phase at the minute where I've stepped away from things and I'm needing a little bit of time, but I would like to get back into the international fold, and I think if not this next one, which is probably unlikely, but the next Commonwealth Games, I'll be 48. yeah, I'd still be 45 years younger than you, mate. So there's
Corona.
I'd love to experience that again. I've got to say, it was an amazing time. Sort of from the officiating side of the sport, I would like to certainly step into a management role at the highest level as well, if possible.
Well, I'm sure you're more than capable of doing both, mate.
Fingers crossed. Not
a problem. Well, that's your 7 up, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now it's time for Richie's Roundup Part 2. As they say on Mastermind, we've started, so we'll finish. And that sound signifies we've lost more national club champions. In the women's over 60 pairs, North Wilts' Alex Jacobs was beaten in the area final 16-14 by Mid Gloucester's Jill Fry. In the ladies over 60s interclub double fours, defending champions Victory lost in the quarter-finals, going down by 18 shots against Egham. And in the national top club, Swale went out as they were beaten in the quarter-finals 10-6 by Egham. It hasn't been all doom and gloom for the defending champions. In the women's triples, Norfolk's Rebecca Wilgris will hopefully get the chance to defend their title, beating Beckles and Hawkins 23-6 in the area final. In the women's over 50s triples, River Range Jenny Ralph has also qualified after beating the Lawns Sue Appleby 19-4. In the over 60 singles, Eastbourne's Pat Bain has qualified after beating Wealden's Joan Howson 21-19. In the men's fours, Exonia's Ryan Whitlock has qualified after beating Newquay's Tim Phillips 16-14. In the men's over 60s fours, Edric Voisterman from Malvern Hills has qualified after beating Clary Dunbar's Keith Bailey 18-15. In the family pairs, Blackpool Newton Hall's Mark Dawes has qualified after beating Cumbria's Stu Irwin 23-8. While in the Liberty Trophy, Durham will defend their title. In the over 60s Inter-County Liberty Trophy, Kent will defend the title, and in the Egham Trophy, Exonia will defend their title. Fingers crossed for all concerned, and let's hope they get the chance to actually defend the title. Despite this year's championships being cancelled, there was a little bit of good news for the Nottingham Indoor Club, as they have now agreed a 25-year lease with Nottingham Council. Line-up for the Egham Trophy has been confirmed. Holders Exonia will play Lincoln. In the semi-finals, Exonia beat Swale by 12, while Lincoln beat St Neots by 6. This will be a repeat of last year's final, where Exonia walked it by 40 shots. There was more good news for Exonia as they retained their Denny Cup title. In the semi-finals, they beat Weir Valley by 5, and then in the final, they beat St Neots by 13. The latter were making their first final appearance. In the semi-finals, St Neots defeated last year's runners-up, the South Shields Vipers, by 10. The County Under-25 Double Fours final line-up has been confirmed, as Durham will play Somerset. Durham beat Cambridgeshire by 26, while Somerset beat Essex in a thriller by 1. In the over 60s interclub double fours, the semi-final lineup will see past winners Stanley play Clacton, while the 2018 runners-up Plymouth will play Egham. In the David Cornwall under-25 triples, the semi-final lineup will see York play St Neots and Weir Valley play Exonia. And it's congratulations to Lincoln women as they landed the Yetton Trophy, In the final, they beat Dolphin by 5 shots for a third title success. In the semi-finals, Lincoln beat Norfolk, while Dolphin beat Dorchester. Sadly for Dolphin, this was back-to-back final defeats. And finally, congratulations to Oyster youngster Joe van der Beer on winning the Under-18 national singles title. In the final, he beat Swale's Isaac Jenner. News from the Short Mat Players Tour, and as expected, the planned Belfast Open and World Masters, due to be held on the 17th of April to the 19th of April, has been cancelled. Right, lads, it might be painful to talk about. Denny Cup last weekend.
Yeah.
Semi-finalists, finalists last year.
What was that? Denny Cup?
Denny Cup, come on. You can't take the glory and not take the pain. Against St Neots, they were unknown to me. I know they've got a lot of young, good kids in. Well, obviously he's been disappointed.
We were very disappointed, to be honest with you, and take absolutely nothing away from St Neots, who came there and certainly did a job on us. From my point of view, I would say, and I've said all season, that if we perform as a team 80%, 85%, we will beat the majority of teams who we play against. And if I was brutally honest, and this includes myself, I would say we performed around about the 60-65. Yeah. We just didn't.
Halfway. I was following the scores, and even Stephen halfway.
It was.
And I would fancy as the second half, but something went wrong 10 to 15 ends.
I think when we went 22 down overall, and I can't remember what stage that was, but it was quite late on, wasn't it?
10 to 15.
10 to 15, yeah.
I think the atmosphere dropped. By the way, I think our atmosphere wasn't as good as it has been for the last 2 years for some reason. I thought there was definitely something wrong there, but I can't pinpoint what it was. But we showed our resilience to come back from 22 down to 6.
Get back to 6, yeah. You
so
got back to 6 with 5 to play, didn't you?
Yeah. I think it was 6 with Sean potentially lying a few, or there was one of the ring. Sorry, no, it was next door to us. It was Paul and Gary and them were lying really well, and I think a head hit and Jack went sideways and ended up, I think they got a 1 or a 2, but you look at that and you get that little score on the board, and we had a little bit of impetus behind us, but no, it just wasn't to be. We've got to take a lot away from the last 2 years, and I've said this to the lads, we've last 4 this year, beaten finalists on an extra end the year before, and Denny played winners the year before that, so we're on a great bit of a journey, but we've just got to learn from maybe mistakes, whatever they may be this year, and we've got to identify them and put them right for next year. So
I think the pain should spur us on next season of losing that game.
Well, I would have thought the pain from last year would have kicked us on. Like that should have been your motivation.
There was certainly motivation there to obviously rectify that, but we just as collectively we just didn't perform, and there's no point in trying to BS around that. You've got to hold your hands up sometimes. You've got to be honest, and I even turned around to my lads and I says, look, my first 10 ends of the game, I was bitterly disappointed and wasn't up to the standard of what you needed to perform to at that level. So we can make excuses all day long, but the simple facts were that St Neots were better than us over 21 ends on that day, and we just didn't perform. Congratulations to them, and then they put up a sterling performance against our
Exonia in the final, didn't they? They gave them a bit of a fright. Again, they would give them a fright to win the game about halfway, and they just went away at the end. Speaking of Exonia, could they be classed as great now?
Exonia, and I mean Devon, you've only got to look at Devon as a whole over the last, I don't even know how many years it is now, indoors and outdoors. They've got to be classed as great. I mean, you look at what they've got at their disposal, and we're not just talking men in either, it's the women as well. They're just battering national titles in left, right and centre. And that must become an easier thing as well. I know we could turn around and say it gets a little bit harder because everybody wants to beat you, but once you've done it once, you forget about the pressure that other team's there to actually try and beat you as well. So that could have been our issue. We've gone down there and tried a little bit too hard on the day, because we were so close last year and went through a lot of pain. Absolutely tremendous. You could reel off
325 internationals, 6 full England internationals, and 16 county players.
Yeah,
14, there's 2 missing. But
what makes you laugh? It makes me cringe all the time when the England teams and things like that come out and people go on and say, "Nice to see it's the Devon team again" or something like that. I mean, come on, how on earth can anybody argue against any of those players?
I mean, there's probably lads that haven't had a sniff at international that would do a job.
That for me is one of a big frustration, losing the team games by the by, but a frustration from my point of view is that we have got lads who are more than capable to be competing at that level also. And for whatever reason, North, we don't seem to get a great deal of players into the international setup, regardless of Liberty results and things like that. Durham's strongest Liberty team that there's ever been. But we're lucky if we scrape 1 or 2 players in from the North year in, year out. So it was more of a frustration that, some of those lads weren't put in the shopping window again as well. But that's just my point of view.
But there is some good news for you, Denny Cup, because if you go on the AIBA website, in their archives, they've actually got you down as winners last year.
Oh, well, it's only right.
Oh, well.
They obviously saw the quality in the...
So, yeah, Stato here not the only one to get things wrong again.
I've never known you get anything wrong, mate.
You are listening to the Wrong Bias Balls podcast. Right, mate, on the back of an email that we got on the previous show about coaching, I thought it would be interesting to give our interpretation of the role of the lead and the way it's developed over the years. Now, when I first started, when it was in black and white days, you just put the mat down, cast the jack, bowl your balls and told to get out the way. I think things have progressed by then, mate, haven't they?
They have, in a strange kind of way. It's actually gone from being what I would class back in your days, obviously back in the 20s where you were
Can't disagree, mate, to be fair.
The days of trilbies.
Yeah. Back then,
for
all you were told.
Come on, Ma.
For all you were told to get your Farah trousers and your brown Potter shoes out the way. It was a highly respected position.
Wasn't it?
Massively respected position, and you look at all of the players who've come from that. Now it's become an integral part of the team, but in my opinion, an underrated position. For all the role has sort of increased in its assets, where a lead gets more involved with regards to shot selection or putting his advice into a shot or whatever it may be, and is part of that team ethic. Everybody wants to play at the back end. Nobody wants to be lead anymore. So strangely enough, we've gone from where you just roll your 2 balls and you're not involved for the rest of the game, and it was seen as a key position, and now that you're fully involved within that position, nobody wants to be there anymore. They all want to be at the back end.
Yeah, I mean, there's still people that say, "Oh yeah, you're just a lead, get out of it." And you say,
it does happen, but I think most nowadays it is you are part of the rink, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I played a EBF county game this afternoon. I played Humberside. The lead for them was tremendous.
Yeah,
and I noticed that during the game, because I thought, you know what, we lost by 1, but we finished 3 ends early because the game was won. But the point is that I thought we played quite well as a rink, but he nailed it every end. He really did. And I was clapping him at some point because I'm thinking, this is absolutely tremendous lead. And that was the difference in the game. And that's
it sets up the whole game, though. You know what I mean? I know we've talked about this before, but you listen to people during games and they'll twist and moan on that they're running it ahead and they get an edge off, or they don't get that look of the row, or whatever it might be, and they're twisting because they're saying we're getting nothing today. But those people primarily are the ones who are getting an absolute battering from the front ends.
Yeah.
Because they've got that many balls in their head, you've got less opportunities for those results to come off. They're just priceless. And personally, I've skipped for a long time now, and in the game so much, and I don't want to be away from that, because I know I'm going to stand there and there'll be times where I'm going, I wish I had this shot to play. But I'm actually looking forward to just stepping back down and just rolling 2, 3, 4
When you get
balls.
at my age, mate, you can go back down the front order.
Right. No, you've still got it, mate. I've got to say you've
no. Let's just... I asked the question off air. Have you ever played lead, Ian?
I did, actually, mate. Aye.
Who did you lead for, Ian?
The guy was called Richard Mackay, actually.
Aye, I didn't think we won a thing then, and then you went third to him and you won a bloody national title.
This is true, but
let's
all
just
of
correct him there, Ian. Was
British
Isles title as well.
Sorry, it's the British Isles title.
Yeah, sorry. I just thought I'd drop that one in.
This is true.
It was the same fellow who used to keep knocking us out, I believe, mate, didn't he? In the green finals.
If you can't beat them, mate, join them.
I did point you in the right direction, didn't run.
And the funny thing was, when we won that fours, it was a bit of a joke, because I actually love his input. But when we were down at the national finals, you're going to have to bleep this out, so you've got a bleep machine.
Yeah.
But our rule of thumb was, myself, Neil and Ian would do the talking, and Phil just had to ball his balls up.
Which he never did.
And that's what we kept saying all of the time. And every time he tried to chirp in, I used to turn around and go, Philip, what have we told you? S the TF. Oh no, that's wrong, isn't it? S the TU, or whatever it is.
That's a blooper if I've ever heard a blooper.
Do you know what though, that year, Whoever won it, we didn't actually. That rink wasn't put together the year before, was it?
No, it was a really, really strange scenario, that. Because the season before, we'd sort of... Gary Smith, wasn't it, was going to join Silksworth. For whatever reason, he didn't. So I was sort of toying with maybe just having a bit of a lazy season and not doing a great deal. And I think myself and Neil had actually been for a fry-up, which is really unusual for us.
Very unusual, isn't it?
Because it's usually just a nice wrap or a salad. But I think we'd been, and Ian and Phil were playing a pairs competition, weren't you, in the local park. So myself and Neil says, we'll go and have a wander up and see how they're getting on. And when we walked up there, they were just coming off the green, so we just sort of we had a chat, and what we're going to do about this fours, and I think it was me, you and Phil, wasn't it? And it was supposed to be Gary as well. I was like, and I just said, look, if we're going to struggle to find somebody who's going to at least give us a chance, let's just not bother. And Neil chirped in, didn't he? Right. Neil went, well, hang on a second. He says, I'm free. And I says, well, I know, but Neil,
as I've
we
just said,
we need somebody really decent. But we says, I get on it. Why not? Oh, we'll have a bash. And then, as they say, the rest sort of history. We came back from the death in the county final, didn't we? Yeah. And won that. Skip played a tremendous last ball.
No, it wasn't bad, like. It is dear.
And then a tremendous time down Lamington. We went down and we just had the best few days I've ever had in bowls. We just had a right laugh. It was sort of, for all Ian's 35, 40 years older than me, I felt a bit like the father figure, because I was
Neil will be over the moon at that. Young Neil.
Jesus.
So I was just sort of saying to the lads, look, we've come down here, we've come to, we're down national finals. We're not gonna go out and drink. We're here to do a sort of a bowls job, and we can do the rest later on. And we did, didn't we? We just had that
was awesome. It was absolutely fantastic. You can't describe it really. It was just,
some things just clicked, didn't they? You get on a roll, and that's half the battle.
You know what? We just get on really well as a rink. We really do. Bounce off each other. And
anyway, dragging it back to like Billy Connolly style, that we've drifted off there. Back to the lead roll. Now, when I was obviously going back again, lead round the clock. Can you remember getting told that?
No.
No, you never told me that, man.
You used to lead round the clock. You used to, it was backhand, forehand. So you're going around the clock.
Yeah.
What's that?
That was in 1920s.
International bowler. International bowler, never heard of that.
No.
It's in a coaching manual. It is. It must be in a coaching manual somewhere. It's got to be.
I've never heard of it.
It's got to be in the Perry Mason book for boys.
I just thought when you said that, you were spraying them at 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
No, that's compass bowling. North, east, south and west. Yes, that was compass bowling.
I have said it in the past, but I've never been sort of told to lead off round the clock.
Round the clock.
I just used to pick a line that I was comfortable with and chuck it over.
Yeah, all right. And casting the jack, practice casting the jack. We're trying to give tips.
What we should do is actually, he's a great lad, but we should get Phil Dixon in to do the casting the jack.
Casting the jack. Oh yes, I have heard he is.
He is massively consistent with the jack of losing it or getting the wrong leg. For a boy who does 80-90% leading, he has got to be the worst jack thrower in the country. And if anybody ever wants to see the wrong way to chuck a jack, I think Phil Dixon will get a job out of this, because he is useless.
But I tell you what, for putting balls on the jack, he's tremendous.
Yeah, he's a good lad.
Absolutely tremendous.
But I mean, just reverting back to that league position, best thing I ever did when I first started, 10-year-old, I did 6 years solid of leading off. And
well, you do your time. It's like doing your apprenticeship.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I don't think you become as consistent when you drop back, but you don't have any fear of drawing.
Yeah.
If a jack gets moved or whatever.
I think if you've been a decent lead, you'll always drop back to the draw shot if you're in a bit of bother. If you've been crap lead, you just leather it up the middle and hope for the best.
Do you not think that because there's less people playing outdoor now, you end up, if you're a half decent player, getting chucked at the back end by your club?
Potentially, but I say to a lot of people, that's if they've got any ambition whatsoever. We always say you're not gonna make a living out of the sport. You're only ever going to get personal glory. But if you want that personal glory and you want to make counties or you want to make international teams, then if somebody's turning around and saying you're going to have to play back end for the club, you just turn around and say, no, I'm not. Yeah. You've got to be you've got to be selfish.
Yeah.
You've got to be
because of what you said earlier as well, though, isn't it? If you get the opportunity, they'll just want to go at the back end.
Aye.
Well, but you've got one that springs to mind all the time. Mark O'Regan played down at Thornaby, and he was the first name on the team sheet for Andy Thompson as his lead in the England team. And even at under 25 level, you would never see him drop up to play skip. He just led, and your first name on international, because any good lead, the country's crying out for.
Worth a wait and go on.
Of course they are, yeah.
The best lead, you reckon? I mean, I've just knocked John Rednall and John Ottaway down 4.5 for what I've seen.
Definitely. I mean,
nationally,
Redders has been around.
You have to be quiet. I think you've got to be very quiet. Them two, aren't they? They're very quiet lads.
Yeah.
I can't imagine them both being party animals, can you?
Yeah, I think they're niche leads, aren't they?
Niche leads.
Yeah, I think they put the put the knowledge and they put their experience in.
Used to be like a machine, didn't he? Well, it might be before your time. I'm going back to 1985s.
Yeah, I was 6.
you were 6. Awesome.
Right, it's competition time again, and thanks as always to Alex Marshall Sports. And for this competition, we will be playing for a £20 voucher provided by Alex Marshall Sports. Thank you very much for them. Question on this one is related to my 7-Up questions, and the question is: which was my favourite chocolate? Was it the Finger of Fudge or was it the Curly Whirly? All answers are, as always, you can either email wrong.bias@hotmail.com, send a message via Facebook, or send us a message via Twitter. All answers will go into the pot, and we'll be using our little magical competition wheel that Richie introduced me to, and we'll be finding our winner in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, mate, number 11 over. Bit of a different show, this one. Obviously no guest, but we were very kind for Ian to come and join us and to sit through all the recordings. We forgot to mention the England men and women.
Yeah.
Congratulations to them on winning the home international series. The men for the 6th time.
6th time in a row, yeah.
And the women for the 3rd time.
Great stuff.
I mean, the women's squad is just, I can see that going on for many years. They really have got a good young squad, and you can probably see why even the men's squad doesn't get changed a great deal, can you? After 6 series, you're not going to change it.
You can see.
Horses for courses,
isn't it? You can see that men's team going on for a long time as well. I mean, it's all going to... How long is Greg going to want to continue to go on, and Nicky, and, you know, as long as they are, you've just got the ultimate foundations, and then, you know, to top that off, you've got Sammy and Louis and the hardly old men, so Jamie Chesney. Got so many good players in there. I looked at it and I had a little tinge of jealousy to be not part of it again for this season, but it was my own choice, and I'm over the moon for the lads. And if and when I do decide to try and trial again, then it'll be a really, really hard job to get back in that team.
And they'll be going for a record-breaking 7th.
7th, yeah.
Nobody's ever done it.
Tatty wasn't playing in the series.
Tatty wasn't there, no.
I don't know what the ins and outs are. There was quite
Paul
a few.
Foster was playing.
Maybe it's just...
I don't know whether Alex... Because he's been away, hasn't he? Unless he's...
Yeah, I'm sure he was in the initial team, though, because he was James Ribby, obviously, who'd moved from England. He was playing 3 to Tatty, so that was one that stuck out, because James has obviously made that move from England up to Scotland. Just for anybody who doesn't understand that situation, you don't have to be your nationality to actually play for the country. You know, you can... If you look over recent times, you've got James, who played for England last year, but he's now playing his nationals and his competition from Scotland, which makes him eligible to play for Scotland. And then probably the most famous of them all is Andy, who's
a well-known Australian. Yes, Cyprus, Australian.
Yeah, so he's the standout figure who has played for England for many years. So I don't know whether I'm just looking at it wrong or what, but there did seem to be a few players missing out that Scottish team. But as always, you can only beat what's in front of you, and it got nitty-gritty towards the end. I don't know if you're watching the live score.
No, I didn't see it.
It was England were comfortably around about, I think they were about 20 up, and it went around about the 17-18 end mark. Scotland nipped ahead by 1.
Right.
And then England just absolutely steamrolled them after that. Yeah, they just ran away with it again. So I think law of averages, I always say, teams come back into it, but it's quite hard to maintain it, because all of those rinks are all going to have last balls.
Aye.
And to maintain that pressure is a really hard thing to do. But credit to them to getting back into the match, but England, just proved too strong in the end. So well done to them.
Yeah, and I think you had an email about a local association as well, mate. I'd like to discuss a bit.
Soapbox time. Well, just going back to our discussion we had with Sean a couple of shows ago. We were talking about the women's game, and I've had a meeting this year with our local women, and really positive in a lot of respects. I didn't know what the outcome of it was going to be, but I'd sort of said, we've got to start getting more women playing on a night time. Give the opportunities there for working women, parents, full-time education. And I even proposed the idea of the men's leagues that we've played in for many years in this local area. Teams are struggling left, right and centre to the point of we've got 2 leagues now. What is it, a 4x4 league? And a 3x4 league, or whatever it is, 4x3. Which is, when you're struggling to turn 12 members out in a team for a club, there's something drastically wrong. So I'd sort of mention to the women, I says, well, for me, I says, why don't we, why should the nighttime leagues not be open to everybody? If you're a member of the club, you should be able to play. So if you're struggling with 12 men, if you've got 4 or 5 women at your club who want to play on a night time, then great, bring them in, and potentially you could actually get enough to play in the 4x4 league, or we can all go back to playing in the 4x4. That was taken positively, and sort of my parting thing was, well, once you have a discussion at your AGM where you'll all get together and have a meeting, then now's the time to obviously propose that and see if we can get it. The response was, we don't meet up. It's men's organisation, women's organisation in a local district. Yeah. So it was like, well, how does any decisions get made at all to come to, for the benefit of local bowls? And I'm sure this happens in a lot of areas all over. So I'm maybe just being a little bit, specific on my own, just due to the simple fact of there's issues there which, bearing in mind the position I'm in, I've had no approach from the local district to say, can you help us develop the sport in the area, which is what I want to do. For whatever reason it is, they don't seem to want to talk, and they see me as a potential stepping on toes, which is just irritates us as much as anything. Yeah. I've got as much for the passion of the sport in my own area as anybody. So lo and behold, we get an email. The women walked away and says, we'll mention it and see if that's going to be a possibility. Lo and behold, we get an email, and I saw it through the club the other day, a joint venture between the local men and the local women. We're going to introduce a mixed league. So I was like, first impression was, happy days. Yeah. Something's got in there. Then I read the small print, to be played on a Friday afternoon. Please let us know by May so that we can introduce this league. And it's like, you just, honestly, I do get frustrated, and I do have a twist in the morning, and I like to put my opinion across, but there is just some things that really, really irritate us. And if they feel that putting another league on an afternoon, which is going to restrict most people who work, you're discriminating against men, women, workers, parents, full-time education who cannot make that afternoon league. Why? Surely the simple answer is, let's introduce women into the nighttime leagues. If that works, then we can think about doing something bigger in the future. It takes less admin. All you've got to do is advise the clubs that this is now available. You don't need to introduce something new, and it just seems as if they've come up with this magical idea between the two of them, which they obviously think is taking the sport forward, but they're not. They're actually hindering yet again.
No. Like you say, when you first read, you said, good idea, but then you sort of say, afternoon, it just takes people out, and to me, the route to go down would be to try to attract members, rather than, it's virtually the equivalent of having 3 goldfish, and you're using the 3 same goldfish.
Exactly, well, it is. It's no different. They're not taking it forward. They're struggling for numbers, for simple facts of, they kind of get the numbers. The women's games decreasing because their games is played on an afternoon. So this was the whole point. Let's introduce something on a night time, which might just introduce a new audience. There may be, what was Alistair talking about last podcast? Yeah, he turned round and said,
grandparents and all that.
It's a different era now. Grandparents, everybody's working. Yeah. We're not back 20 years ago where the man went out, and even if it's further than that, the man went out and the women stayed at home and did what they did. That is not the world anymore. No. So introducing a Friday afternoon league is not going to help anybody whatsoever.
I suppose the only plus, and we said it off air, was, well, at least they've actually spoken to each other. They've actually come in on the same him sheet, which many years ago, mate, that would never have happened. Would never have happened. So hopefully that small steps. It mightn't be. It's probably not ideal, but it's probably a little step, shall we say. We'll give them a little bit of that. But I do understand your frustration, mate. But anyway, mate, that's number 11 done. About 4 shows ago, I said, the internet said we survived 7. Mm-hmm. In the current climate, we've made 11. Now, we haven't decided where we go forward in the current atmosphere. I would still like to knock something out.
Oh, definitely. I think it's important that, there may have restrictions in place of being able to play, but the sport isn't going to go away. So We'll just, like everything, and I think like every club's doing at the moment, we'll just take it step by step, and we'll gauge the situation as and when it arises. And if there's nothing to talk about, nobody's going to listen to us talking and.
We'll play noughts and crosses, mate, or something. Hangman, that's right, mate. Yeah, television, what was on the telly. What was on, oh, did you see that? That was the funniest thing I've seen, that Facebook video. For the Weatherspoons.
Absolutely tremendous.
We've got a link on it on the Wrong Bias Facebook page, and you've got to go on, and if you don't smile at that, you'll never smile at it.
That's great.
I thought it was tremendous when I see it.
That for me is another thing that will probably go viral, and it's obviously for the same
I think it's gone to about 2.3 million or something like that.
That take me out after whoever
created
it.
Was really
the timing is perfect, and it's just great.
But I tell you, when I seen it, I'm going, they think they're taking the mickey out of us. You know what I mean? They can't see it from our point of view. We're delighted. We're delighted to get something like that. That's what we want. We would love to see people in Wetherspoons.
And on a smaller scale, it is what you actually see at international events when a shot like that goes in. The crowd on the side will go up. Obviously, it's obviously magnified because it was the circumstances of the World Cup at the time. But no, fantastic.
Really great. But I can recommend going and have a look on the Facebook page and have a look at it. You will put a smile on it. Well, once again, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Yep, thanks very much,
everybody keep safe, keep washing your hands, just do the sensible things, and don't keep buying the loo rolls up, for God's sake.
That's just ridiculous.
It was just the state of the country it is. But best wishes, everybody, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you for listening, and hope you've enjoyed the show.
This has been a Dodgy production.